mug this morning.
So we're live, and in my mug is coffee. Yeah, it's coffee.
Coffee.
I do
I
chai
have
in
a
the
gray
ingredients.
tea, as is fitting for Mr. Gray to have a gray tea and then chai together.
Gray tea. Is that Earl Grey?
Earl Grey tea smells really good. There's a bergamot scent in there. I don't know how
Yeah.
much you know about tea, but gray teas,
Mhm.
Earl Grey is like a bergamot, and that's like a masculine fragrance typically.
Mhm.
If you go to a store and they have different things like
Mhm.
sandalwood, bergamot, those are typically
And
masculine
you know
fragrances.
the smell like vetiver, right? Is that how it's pronounced? Like the oil vetiver. It's like for males.
I don't know that one.
You got to look that up.
I have a frankincense. Do you know
Yeah,
frankincense?
yeah.
I have it on my mustache. So
Fun.
it just like keeps me in a in a real spiritual place maybe.
That's too funny. I don't know about the Earl Grey though. Like, what does that do for, do you know what it does for your body? Like, is it
Besides the caffeine, I'm
nice?
not really sure.
So it's interesting. I learned through Sadhguru that any tea that's caffeine free is a placebo because every tea leaf has caffeine in it. Did you know that?
I did not know
Now
that,
you just
and
learned
that's
it's
pretty
so
awesome.
like Tulsi tea and any tea, right? That says caffeine free. It's not actually tea. Like it's just
Mm.
the sugar aspect. It's not tea because a tea leaf has caffeine and it can't be without caffeine.
Mm. Well, what about like these like fruit things? I can't think of like the name of a tea that
Raspberry?
doesn't have caffeine in it, but
Mhm.
yeah, like a raspberry tea or something. That's still caffeine in it?
If it says caffeine free, then it's like a placebo. You know how they give
Oh,
sugar pill?
yeah.
That's really what it is. And when
Wow.
I was like, wow, it's like all these years, you know, as you're adults, it's like you don't know certain facts. And then you're like,
Yeah.
wow, all these years I thought something else and I still didn't know that.
That is really funny because I have a friend that
Yeah.
tried to share me. Do you know Dr. Sebi?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, Dr. Sebi seems to have like a lot of really good information. He's passed away, has a really great
Yeah.
story, phenomenal
I
story,
remember.
Dr. Sebi. But my friend really likes his information and sent me this thing about tea.
Mhm.
And I think he was under the impression that caffeine was a bad thing,
Mm.
that was not good for your body. And
Mhm.
so Dr. Sebi's recommendations, as per the friend that sent me this,
Mhm.
it seemed to be teas that were not noted for having their caffeine, which is interesting. I don't know. You have to do your research. I like Earl Grey tea. I do a green tea that I like a lot, and it's called gunpowder tea.
Mm.
So it's like rolled into really tight leaves.
Mhm.
Really good caffeine. I get a really good cognitive benefit from it for sure.
Yeah, it affects your nervous system, the caffeine. It will give you anxiety before a lot. It doesn't do
Yeah.
that for you. Like coffee, I mean.
Well, coffee I don't drink because it has there's something. So I'm allergic to these three things. These are weird. Chocolate, peanut butter, fish.
Oh.
I've never heard anybody really have that combination, but that's just it for me. Chocolate, peanut butter, fish. So no seafood. I've tried recently in Puerto Rico. I had a friend who spear gunned a fish that was really big, and I was like, oh yeah, that's so awesome. I had one or two bites of it. It was really great tasting. And then I was in the bathroom for a couple of hours, like cramping, my stomach cramping, dying. Just my body knows really well what should not be in it. And so chocolate peanut butter fish, there's something about chocolate that
Mm.
the chalk in that name, chocolate and coffee, whatever that is, that dark bitterness or something, I'm
Mhm.
allergic to that.
Oh
I
my goodness,
can't
that's
have
real
that.
stuff. That's a cocoa bean. Just
Yeah.
a cocoa.
Cacao, I can't do
Oh,
cacao. I've
cacao.
tried cacao.
I said cocoa.
Yeah. I've tried cacao, the cocoa beans too.
Yeah.
No good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Can't do those. So I always go with tea. Teas are good, but I get a benefit from the caffeine. Have you ever done like a 23andMe or
no.
ancestry.com?
No, I did not. They were sold to I forget what the company is, and they had some cybersecurity concerns regarding the companies and our information.
Okay.
But yeah, what does it tell you?
I've actually done both. I've done
Yeah.
Ancestry and I've done 23andMe.
What did
I
it
did
say?
both to just try to get a comparison.
Mhm.
As a scientist myself, it feels like their population is not
Mm.
really as big as it could be to get an
Mm.
accurate representation of the data. And
Yes.
so I did the 23andMe. The 23andMe has you can download your raw data for your DNA. And so I have this raw data, and you can plug that raw data into other, maybe there's another platform that you found.
Yeah.
You can plug your raw data in, and they'll tell you a little bit about your health. And the 23andMe, you can get not just the ancestry, you can get a health one as well. And it said in there that I don't know if it's my blood type or my DNA, receives caffeine really well. So it takes me like a higher threshold of caffeine for me to kind of feel it, experience it. I've actually only really ingested more caffeine in my life during this pandemic. Before that, I was not drinking any tea. I was I had a big aversion to it. Like I was no soda pops or no coffee. No, I was like very conscious about not drinking caffeine, no energy drinks and things. But then during the pandemic, I was like, wow, this dictation is getting hard. I better drink some tea.
Yeah, I never liked as I got older, sodas or energy drink. It doesn't make me feel good.
Right.
It's very heavy and it affects my body. Even alcohol, I'm not a drinker or smoker. It really affects my body.
Yeah.
Feel sick. Do you feel sick too?
No, I don't really get sick. I'm just, for me, it's I'm aware that caffeine can become something that you're dependent on, and I don't want to be dependent on a substance like this. Well, with drinking or other substances, I usually handle my own pretty well, but I'm not somebody that is really into drinking all the time. I have family members that are more of the regular drinking beer every day or something like that. And that's just like, wow, you don't see what that's doing to your body. You don't really see how that's reflecting on a lot of bad behaviors that you probably have in your body. If you're drinking constantly every day, it's not a good habit to get into. Once in a while, I have no problem with that. But,
I occasionally will have a drink if I'm out somewhere, but that's about it. Like one, like I don't even finish a beer or something.
Yeah.
Let's get into this. All right. Welcome back to Chai Together, everyone. You are tuning in for your cup of courage, hope, and imagination today with Mr. Travis Gray. His credentials are MACP and PHDc. Namaste. I know you like saying namaste a lot.
Namaste. Yeah, I do say namaste a lot.
Yeah. Before I tell them more about you, tell us how you're feeling to be here today.
I'm feeling good. I'm really appreciative that you invited me on to the podcast. This is really awesome. I'm really happy with my Chai Together mug.
Thanks. You look dapper. I think that's a good classic.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I try to keep that sort of style, that sort of modern gentleman style. That's something I appreciate for sure. It goes with the beard. I don't really have an option. The beard just makes me have to do that. So.
And where do you live, Travis?
I live in San Jose, California currently.
Oh, so
I'm probably going to move soon. Probably going to move out of California soon. I'm originally from Omaha, Nebraska. That area. I moved here almost 8 years ago, maybe like 7.5 years ago now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you move there for work?
I moved here for school. So maybe this is cool to get into that. When I first moved to the Bay Area, right before I moved to the Bay Area, I was in a lot of trouble. I was in and out of jail. I was getting arrested all the time.
Wow.
I'm not from Omaha, Nebraska. I'm from a little bit closer to Omaha, Nebraska. That's like a smaller town. And that smaller town, there's just police everywhere. You're seen everywhere. And so I would constantly get in trouble. I would constantly be arrested for something, or dealing with a court case, or trying to get my driver's license, or going to this program or probation. And I would constantly be doing those things. And so I ended up moving to the Bay Area because I had this conversation with a tracker, sort of like a probation officer. And his name was Dante. Dante asked me, what were you doing? And I was on the computer trying to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. And it was, I'm interested in psychology. So I'm interested in the psychology of the country or the world that has me in this position right now. Cause I always felt like I have a good heart. I'm not here to hurt anybody. My intentions are always solid. And so when I eventually decided that psychology was going to be my path, I finished my associate's degree in my hometown and at a community college. And then I decided that I needed to narrow. If you're going to be very successful in your life, being too broad is a problem. So you have to narrow the focus. So psychology as a general degree doesn't actually get you into a lot of psychology oriented places. So you have to narrow the vision. I narrowed the vision with transpersonal psychology. And so I moved to the Bay Area for this school that was formerly the Institute of Transpersonal Psychology, the first of its kind. And then it became Sophia University. There's now some other schools that are similar, but that's why I originally moved to the Bay Area. When I first moved here, I had only $3,000 to my name. Right before I moved here, I sold my car. Got done with all my probation and stuff. My record was clean for now. I was like, I have to get out of here quick before I get into trouble again. Before the people that I'm hanging out with, the things that I'm doing are going to get me back into trouble. That first $3,000 that I had, I purchased a bicycle with, and I spent $2,000 in my first 2 weeks living in the Bay Area. First 2 weeks, I'm overpacked, way overpacked. I had like 6 bags with me and one person holding this and a bicycle. So I was making multiple trips to different hotel rooms. And then right when I got here, I was straight into class. We had this intensive seminar. So for the first 5 days, I could not even focus on getting a place. I had to focus on school. So I only had like a week and a half, and every day when the seminar was done, I just dropped the school, and every day I was focused on getting a place. Spent $2,000 in the first 2 weeks. And in that first month, when I finally, I spent a majority of the money that I had left in that first month. I had $20 left after the first month's rent and deposit, or there was no deposit. I was lucky with that. I only had $20 left that month. It was a like a $5 Subway month. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, every once in a while they have the $5 Subway, the $5.
I understand. I'm buying my own groceries now.
Right. So with that $20, I would buy $5 Subway sandwiches, and I would cut it into quarters.
Yes.
It's like you're really struggling if you cut it into quarters.
Listen, I did not want to waste any food. There was this bread we got as like, just you could take the bread right in those baskets they have at the laundromat and stuff. And I took it, and I did not want to waste it. So I was like forcing myself to eat this bread. Ended up throwing it out, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't want to waste any food.
That bread, I think, was bad on my body, actually.
Yeah.
I think it was bad. I did seem to have bad effects from that because I was only eating Subway. First of all, it was only I took that $20 and I made that last me that month. I didn't know how to cook anything at that time. I was 21.
Me either. I still don't.
It was terrible. And now I'm a really great cook, but back then at the beginning, I knew nothing. I couldn't scramble an egg. I couldn't make ramen noodles in the microwave.
What?
Yeah. I had a culinary friend that taught me how to make ramen noodles before I moved. I had ramen noodles every day for 3 days. Before I moved, I had $0. I had to sell the car to have any money. And for 1 week, I was like really struggling. I had ramen noodles like 3 meals in a row, and I completely threw up like for breakfast. Like it was
That's
so
not
salty. It
healthy.
was so bad. But when I was here in the Bay Area, that $20 lasted me that month. I had to had to get the place. I got the place. I only had $20 to my name. I have to figure out how I'm going to get rent for the next month. So I did and I only had a bicycle. So I was using public. I didn't really understand public transportation at the beginning. I had never really used too much public transportation. So I was mostly on my bicycle riding for hours in either direction to try to apply for jobs or, figure out what's around, just kind of learn the area too. And I found 2 jobs in that first month, and I've been here ever since. This is the most expensive place in the country, some would argue. And I was really, at the beginning of my journey, I knew if I could make it here, I'd be set.
You can make it anywhere.
Yeah.
In Cali. So you got 2 jobs while you were in school.
While I was in school, full-time school, I have 2 jobs. I was working Chipotle, and I used to work at a store called Precision Time. It was like a mall kiosk. And so I had the opportunity. I got, earlier we were discussing like getting stabbed in the back from a business partner. Well, I got stabbed in the back by my manager. I was we were talking about the bergamot and stuff, fragrances and stuff too. I was an assistant manager at the Bath and Body Works. So I was like a key holder manager.
Oh wow,
which is odd for a gentleman to be in a position like that. But I was really successful in that position. I thought that was going to be my job opportunity when I moved to California. I thought she was going to help me transfer. She did not help me transfer. And so I went back to like an older job. I had before Bath and Body Works, I had worked at Precision Time. I found a mall that had a Precision Time in it, and I ended up working there. I was really successful at that job too. But yeah, 2 jobs. All I would do is school. I would go outside. I would do yoga and work out, and then I would work Chipotle, cold bike rides in the morning to get to work.
My God.
It was intense, but so worth it. So worth the story. A lot of our struggles, it's like we go through them. During that struggle, it is not great. It does not feel good. Anything to get out of it at times. But the story, when you look back on it, like that's not a boring movie. That's fun to watch.
Yeah, because if it was so perfect, nobody wants to hear that anyway.
Right. A good movie was never written. Oh, he woke up in the day. It was a great day, and then he went to sleep at night. That was never a good movie.
There's no challenges.
Yeah.
So what led you to have interest in psychology? Was it because of your own life?
Psychology, it was my own life. So my father passed away when I was 18 months old, and that has colored the experience of my life forever, as it would anybody. My mother was a single mother most of the time. I did have a stepfather at one small period of time, and he didn't really take on to be a father figure for me. But my mother, so mostly raised me as a single mother. She's also deaf. So she cannot hear. She does not speak verbally. My first language is ASL. And her mom and dad, my grandma and grandpa, are both deaf also. So that second generation of death, dealing with that adversity, being a single mother, not having a father in my life, getting into trouble all the time because I had no mentor, I had no leadership. My mom does a great job. She has done a great job, but she just, in reality, she doesn't live in the same hearing world. It's just a little different world. She has a unique, a good term is a neurodivergent experience. She has a neurodivergent experience of the world, and mine was more neurotypical as far as hearing and speaking goes. And so I had to raise myself in a lot of ways. I was kind of raised by the friends that I would hang out with and stuff like that, as a lot of people could relate to that. So when I was sitting on probation, thinking about what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Why am I in this position? What is it about the psychology of the world that has, you know, looked at me as a criminal, as somebody bad for the? I think I'm a good. I'm a good drop in any community. I perceive myself to be, and so when I looked at that, I realized that, oh, what I want to do is kind of change that narrative, change the psychology that is going on in the world. And so I decided psychology. I got into transpersonal psychology because of the relationship to my father's passing had such a dramatic effect on me. I had thought about like death a lot. I saw you really promote the suicide hotline on here. That's really amazing because when I was young, when just like a child, like I didn't have. I don't know that I had the intense concerns of suicide, but I had suicidality. I had those thoughts though, and I thought about death a lot. I thought about why am I here very young, and I tried to run away. I've tried different things. But so all of this culmination of experience with my father passing away, thinking about him not existing but still being my creator somehow, it just I wrestled with that a lot, and it really colored how I look at spirituality. And so transpersonal psychology is the study and cultivation of human transformation. It's a holistic science, meaning it's about the whole investments of the whole being, body, mind, soul. So it has a spiritual flavor to, it adds a spiritual flavor to the psychology that we know of. So it not so mainstream, a little unconventional in approach, holistic, but that I've been interested in ways that were, you know, unique, a little bit different. And so I joined transpersonal psychology. I've been here ever since. I've been with my same university for the last 7 years. I got my bachelor's degree. Now my master's degree of counseling psychology finished, and I'm at the latter end of my PhD. I'm working on my dissertation now.
Yay! It's not easy.
It's not easy, no.
Right now.
No, it's not easy for sure.
It's a lot to keep up with. I really like the vocabulary you use, saying that how it colored your life, you know? Were you always this, let's say, like eloquent and like the way you speak, or did your communication change like when you started studying this?
I remember I used to smoke a lot of weed when I was very young. I remember when I was on probation, I would have to be off of marijuana for like a year or something like that. And, you know, just what you said is just making me think of this. I had a friend, his sister, she used to kind of hang out, like she's older than us. She was like 10 years older than us. And she once said, while I was like in this sober period, she once said, wow, you speak really well. You have so much vocabulary. I've never seen myself that way. It's very eloquent.
Wow.
But when I, over the time of lots of reading, but before I moved, I knew that I was going into psychology. I had not been reading books. Reading a full book was the last thing on my mind.
Right. It can be hard to begin with. It's like, if you're not a fast reader, it can take a long time.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I thought that I have to be a fast reader. I have to be faster. I have to be better at reading, but that's not even how reading works.
How does reading work?
Sorry?
How does reading work?
Well, when you, I think typically the person that thinks, oh, I need to be a fast reader, they're like, oh, how much am I retaining? How much of this book am I retaining? Oh, I'm not a fast reader because when I read this, I'm not retaining a lot of information. But then are you comprehending the information?
Right.
And then it's still, you said that you liked the way that I spoke about, the flavoring of the experience.
Yeah.
It is flavoring your mind. It is coloring your mind. It is coloring your experience to have these stories or this, you're watching TV and you're not retaining all of that information, but you're not a fast watcher or something.
Yeah.
You don't watch it as fast as it goes, So
that's funny.
So I used to think that you had to be a fast reader too. In high school, I did not ever complete my homework. I was really good in class. I'm always very engaging. A conversation like this, I'm like really participating. If you saw me in any of those Zoom meetings with Les Brown and John, I'm like, I'm in the chat. I'm like, if there was a time to ask a question, I'm asking a question.
I know.
So I stay really engaged. I stay really participating. I've always been that way in high school, but outside of the classroom, it's like I lacked a lot of self-discipline because I would rather hang out with my friends and stuff like this. So before I moved to the Bay Area, I read like a bunch of fantasy books, like a bunch of fiction books. Like the whole Harry Potter series, I read that again. I had read that in childhood. I had an aunt that read that with me. And then I read like the Aragon series, the Inheritance trilogy. Do you know?
I like Aragon.
That one's good. Aragon's really good. Everybody check out that Inheritance series.
This is so funny.
Author is only 17 years old when he
for Aragon.
Yeah.
Oh.
When he published the first one, he was only 17. He was the youngest best-selling fiction author, maybe ever.
God.
Yeah. Really incredible. That is a really incredible series. So descriptive.
I still have it. I still have the book from childhood.
Yeah, I love those. Well, there's 3 of them. Do you know that?
Yeah. No, I didn't.
There's 3 of them. So there's Aragon. There's a blue one, a red one, and a green one.
Yeah.
Is there a yellow? There might be a yellow one too. So there might be 4.
Maybe.
But it's a series. So I read that. I read Artemis Fowl. I really like Artemis Fowl. If you don't know that one, that's like about a criminal mastermind that's like a 13-year-old criminal mastermind, and he gets into like the fairy world and stuff. So I got into that too. But then I was like, man, these fiction books are not really going to help serve me. I need to get interested in a different sort of material. I need to get interested in nonfiction books. And so I started off with Al Capone, the biography of Al Capone. So I get real gangster with it. So Al Capone, it's called Get Capone, The Rise and Fall of Al Capone. I started with that one. I started with, this right here, this painting. This is it was originally from my university, and they were going to throw this away. This print.
Wow!
But this is by a really famous visionary artist. His name's Alex Grey, Grey. And Alex Grey, I've met him a couple of times. He's aligned with this transpersonal psychology area. I've seen him at these conferences and things. I almost got. He's famous, so he got like the suite. He got the upgrade. They almost booked Mr. Gray for the upgrade. They're like, "Oh, Mr. Gray, you're sweet," and I was like, "Yeah, great," but it was the wrong Mr. Gray.
So did you go?
I almost did it, but he was right next to me when this was going on, so they just got confused or something.
It's okay. Your time is now.
Right. Take the opportunity while it's handed to you.
Morning.
Hi. And so with Alex Grey, he had a book called The Mission of Art. And that was truly inspiring for me as one of the early books to read. Both of those books, Get Capone and The Mission of Art. The Mission of Art, essentially whatever you're creating, this podcast that you're creating, Chaitogether. The mission behind it, the message behind it. This is art. It's not conventional art. You think of like a visionary thing. Man, The camera's flipped. It's crazy. So
yeah, I was gonna say, I created the design.
oh, awesome! You made the logo yourself.
I painted it. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's great.
But yeah,
do
go
you do a lot
ahead.
of painting?
Yeah, I did used to take painting classes and things, but I stopped because I had depression and I used to play piano and paint, but I was never able to complete any of my dreams because people would say my dreams are too big and I would shut down. Really, people's opinions really used to affect me. I had my own blog when I was young, but I shut it down. Like I was doing things, but I never completed anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, what was, what is the mission? What is the message behind that thing that you are trying to complete? In this book, The Mission of Art, that is the message there. That is the mission of art, is that whatever that message is that I'm trying to do in this thing that I'm completing, even if it's just for myself, even if it's a message I'm trying to give myself, affirming myself, that's perfect. That is the mission of art, to have that message. And everyone is an artist. Those were like two elements of that book that really inspired me, because I couldn't figure out how to be an artist. I wanted to be one, but I wasn't a very like painter kind of person. I wrote, I speak. This is more, this is what aligns with me. And I was, really happy to find that inspiration in that book, that everybody is an artist. You have a mission, you have a message that needs to be created into something, to an offering for others, so that it can be received. It's really an important thing.
I'm going to check that out.
Yeah.
I'm going to check that out. So what is your goal, after your PhD? Do you want to teach?
I already do teaching.
Oh, wow.
So I did for a couple of years. I did a teen domestic and family violence intervention program. I think you'll resonate with what was doing there. So the program was a 6-month program for adolescents on probation. As I said before, I've been on probation. I've been arrested a lot. So I could really connect with these kids, but I was not violent in any of my crimes. So when I would connect with these kids, they connected with, I've been arrested before too. Well, the Teen Domestic Family Violence Intervention Program, that's a mouthful, is the 6-month program. Yeah. And we would teach like emotional intelligence. We would teach about nonviolence, what is violence, coercion, things that you wouldn't think of as specifically violent. You think of physical violence a lot of times, but a lot of people don't think about the other ways that people can be violent with language, with mannerism and stuff. Well, I felt like I was teaching the most important information in a young person's life, and this is never taught in school. This emotional intelligence, how to relate to others, conflict resolution skills. I would also teach parents that were they're in like custody battles. They're court mandated to a program with me. And then I individually, I'm a clinically trained therapist. I teach in those spaces as well. But right now I'm mentoring kids. I have a couple of 10-year-old kids that I'm mentoring. I'm like relearning math.
I know what you mean, because my background is in teaching. I'm a teacher, so I definitely
that's awesome.
I had to relearn math.
Yeah, you look like you'd be a great teacher.
I am a teacher.
Yeah, it looks like you would be a great one.
Yeah, thank you. This is like digressing, but it's interesting because, I've been thinking again to teach again. Yes, being an entrepreneur, but I want to work with kids now again in some way, maybe chaitogether, Kids Academy, or create something, for kids. But briefly, I came to Atlanta because I'm opening a community center here, chaitogether, for children and adults who don't have a safe home, right? Because that's what I went through. So somewhere they could go and do their homework, read books, and I can make chai. So, something like that, but I want to create that. So
that's beautiful.
I moved here.
That's really beautiful. I could see the community of Atlanta really being happy with that offering.
Thanks. Yeah, back to you.
I do think you would be a great teacher. You hold space really well. You listen well. Obviously, if you're going to have a podcast, you need to be a good listener. And I could see a lot of kids like really enjoying your presence.
It's interesting. I did not listen. I was not a good listener at all. Yeah, I was not. Now I've learned to listen and then respond, but I don't wait to, like, I'm not waiting to say something. Like, I'm just in the moment where you are, but I'm not waiting to think something in my head, or what am I going to say next? You know? I taught kindergarten, ESL, so I'm ESL certified at my education degree, and we had a family daycare. I've also worked with children with autism and psychotic disorders at a special school. And I've also been a caregiver and for my mom and for others. So I used to take clients with cerebral palsy and legally blind to school and bring them back, like transport them. And yeah, I've done a lot of work, but people wouldn't know that because I don't mention my academic stuff. But I have a few degrees, and my goal is to get my PhD too.
Oh, that's awesome. What would you get your PhD in?
In public administration.
Nice.
Yeah. So back to you.
No, that's really cool. I think that is good. There's a book that I have called The Little Book of Dialogue. In society, we argue a lot. When in conversation, we don't listen to other people. We speak to be heard, but we don't speak to reflect and work on a common ground, on common conversation. And dialogue can be challenging for very hard subjects, controversial subjects. But I really like, what she said. You're not listening to, or you're not getting ready to speak. Like, oh, this is the thing that I'm gonna say. Okay, I'm gonna say, and then they say it. But you listen, and when the moment is there, it's active listening. You're active listening.
Yay, I've made it.
Yeah.
I want to say really quickly, because I have a friend from like years ago, like 8 to 10 years now. And so when I was on the phone with him now and I was quiet, he's like, I'm just listening. He's like, wow, I'm not used to that. Because I was always talking so much. I had so much trauma, anxiety. I was like, blah, 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 blah. Like as if they're my therapist. Now he's like, wow, like it's such a big difference because I've had therapy. I'm in a different space in my life. I'm not suffering from trauma. So it's like a whole different Pratiba, because people are used to me dumping everything on them, right? Like when you use your friends and like burden them that way, like with their boundaries.
How valuable was therapy for you?
Oh my God. I had made a post. So 9 months, right? When I joined in last May to, I just recently graduated, because I outgrew my therapist. Like I was teaching her things. And it's so fascinating. And I told her that I owe this new life to her. And she said, I did the work, but I did the work every single day, including Les's program, including, Bob Proctor's program, and reading on my own, right? That was a big changer. And Sadhguru, I did an inner engineering program. I did like multiple things combined together to create that change. But therapy is a game changer. I would not stop therapy. Like I can always revisit her. I also am Reiki certified, Reiki 2 for Holy Reiki. So I trained that. I just, I recommend therapy to every single person. I feel like there's always something that can be discussed and resolved, whether you are aware of it or not. Yeah.
There's just so much value in having a relationship with somebody centered on unconditional positive regard. Just an unconditional positive regarding space for that other person. So valuable. The therapist in those spaces learns a lot always also. I really love what I do with other people. I am learning also. I'm learning while I'm speaking, things like this. There's a kind of connecting those two things, the therapy and the active listening. There's a trick that I learned in school that I think is a good one. It's worked for me well, is that if there was and for the audience here, if there was something in my mind that I wanted to speak, but I don't want to stop listening, like I want to be respectful and I do actually want to hear, but there's this thought and I want to get it out also. So what you do is you hold on to that thought.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on to that thought. Hold on to that thought. So sometimes if I'm in a conversation, a really dynamic conversation, maybe with a client that is really unloading a lot of emotionally charged experience, really has a lot to say, there might be a point that I want to connect back on. And if I'm not confident that I'm going to save it in my mind somehow, I'll hold on. I'll have like a physical representation of holding on to that memory, and it really does work. And then I'll hold on to a second thought, a second point that I want to relay back to this client. A third point.
Wow.
You only have 5 fingers, so you better get it out.
So it's like you strengthen your memory, because you know how Bob Proctor says you have a weak memory or strong memory. So you strengthened your memory then. Is that what you did?
Yeah. I would say that aligns with that same sentiment. You have a weak memory or a strong memory. It's a muscle to be worked on. And I think, doing a skill like this, that's physically generating some sort of practice of memory. I would say that really aligns.
I have a question for you. So, you were a completely different person on a different path. How many years ago now?
8 years.
8 years ago. And what age range were you in? Do you mind sharing?
Yeah, I'm now 29. So I was 21 when I moved to the Bay Area, and I would say that was the beginning of this chapter.
So now, has studying psychology brought up stuff for you to where you needed to see a therapist, or have you seen a therapist?
I have seen multiple therapists, therapists or coaches, things like that along my life. When I was 17, I sought a therapist. I sought out a therapist myself. So I asked my mom if we could do this, because I needed a male figure. I needed some sort of male. I had no father in my life. I had no coach. I wanted a coach. I wanted a mentor. I wanted some male figure to give me an idea of how to be in the world. So I sought out a therapist. I found one that was like some doctor something, and it was okay. Mostly what happened in that space was I just said everything that I needed to say, and he was kind of like, "Oh yeah, great. Okay, we're done." It was like, but you didn't say nothing to me. I need some back and forth. That's my style. I need some back and forth. We have to interact.
Wow.
And so that wasn't the right therapist. But then I met a guy named Dr. Dross. Dr. Dross was really awesome. He did some family therapy, which is, I applaud him for having the courage to do that in that space, knowing what that space is like. So he worked with me and my mother. I had to interpret all the time. Growing up, I have to interpret for my mom in a therapeutic space. That's a little strange dynamic, but I had the opportunity to have my mother in session in that therapy to work on our relationship. Our relationship was tumultuous. In my senior year of high school, I was living in the living room. We lived in like a 1-bedroom apartment, and I lived like on the couch. And so it wasn't super conscious, but there was something about that experience that was just, we were butting heads. And so I wanted to work on that. I wanted to work on stuff with myself. That therapeutic relationship that I had for whatever short period of time that was awesome. Really significant in my life. And then when I was in the Bay Area, our program asked us to do therapy. We had to do like 30 hours of therapy. So I did that also. I had a really incredible therapist here in Redwood City, and she's aligned with the same sort of therapy. But I also had a bad therapist in the Bay Area too. So the important thing when finding a therapist, a coach, a guide, whatever word you want to use, somebody that's going to have an unconditional positive regarding relationship with you, help you make it to the next level, all of those things. You want to make sure that relationship is right. That relationship between the two of you, that is the single most important factor in whatever is going to be created out of that space. So there are bad therapists out there. There are bad coaches. There are bad everything, every position. There's somebody that's not as, maybe not quite as good as they could be doing it. A lot of times that happens because they haven't done their own work. So during the therapy program at my school, it's really an intense program. I've been going to school all year round for the last 8 years.
Oh my God.
All year round. No summer vacations. I've been going to school 20 years of my entire life. Longer than people are like, well, why are you not done with school yet? Usually you're done at 18.
I got the same thing, that I was behind. I'm not behind. I'm right where I need to be.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm way ahead of the curve. Usually people getting their doctorate right now, they're getting their PhD are much older than me. Oftentimes in my classes and stuff.
Yeah, and I'm doing my master's. So.
Sorry?
And I said, again, I'm doing my master's, but, I was told by, family and stuff, I'm behind. What am I going to do? It's like people are so concerned with discouraging than encouraging, just put someone down. It doesn't help. And I've been in school for long, too, for different things. It's just I like to learn different things, not just one thing. Life isn't about just being focused on one. You could do many different things.
Yeah. Most like graduate programs, if that is your interest to get into a graduate program, most programs, it's like 3 to 4 years, maybe. And you get a full-fledged graduate degree in that 4 years, or depending on what you have beforehand, in a very short period of time, in the bigger picture of your life, and you have this degree, it's really beneficial. So you can do it. If you don't, you're 18, you graduate with your high school diploma, and you decide not to get your bachelor's degree until you're 30, and you're like, well, I'm 30, and I don't know if I should say. You'll only be 34 when you're done.
I know.
So, and on and on.
There's no timeline. Like, I remember when I went to community, I think the youngest student was like 11 or so, like brilliant, like 9 to 11. Like he was like really advanced, and the oldest was 90 something.
Yeah.
In class. So it's like it's really whatever you want to do with yourself. It's just society tells you, oh, this is the age range, to finish degree. It's like there really isn't one, because many parents go back to get that. So
yeah. Yeah, it's perfectly fine to do so, but during the program, during schooling, during these different, you're going to have these periods of time in your life where you're really working on yourself, like you did. Those 3 programs you're in all at the same time, and you're in therapy, and you're trying to figure, you're also in your job. You're also, you're in many roles. You have your hands in many buckets and stuff.
Yeah.
You're trying to grow. Your greatness, your inner greatness is reaching out. It wants to be expressed. It wants to reach out. It's still doing that. With chaitogether, it wants to reach out. It wants to grasp onto its expression. Its expression in the world. Well, during that time period where you're growing a lot, you're going to grow a lot. Like during that time period of me in my master's degree of counseling psychology, or my degree programs, this past 8 years, I've grown exponentially. I've gone back to visit sometimes, or there's some family members that I'll only see a couple of times a year. Every time they see me, you are sure that Mr. Gray is growing. You are sure that I am, unlocking your greatness. Exactly. You're damn sure that I am doing my job, that I am making sure that I'm going to be transformed. I'm going to continue to transform. I'm going to continue to grow. My commitment to that is important for everybody that believes in me, and everybody that I will eventually have an impact on. I really value the relationships that I have with clients, or with anybody that I could serve. I want to make sure that I've done my own work. A lot of therapists maybe have not. It's really important to do your own work.
I agree with that. So is this the field you want to be in as your goal? Like, is this what you want to do in life long term?
I've defined my purpose in this way
Mhm.
before, and it can always be ever changing. But
Mhm.
this purpose is to inspire others to transform themselves,
Mhm.
like to inspire the possibility, the knowing. There's a word called a gnosis. There's a knowing within you, knowing that greatness exists first,
Mhm.
that soul exists. It wants to be expressed. It wants you to be transparent and revealing that soul
Mhm.
nature within you. And in order to make that happen, be inspired to transform yourself, to do the work,
Mhm.
to have a good path for doing the work. That is really what I want to do. Like, to be the demonstration. I was going to be in and out of jail for sure for the rest of my life if I did not make some changes. Like, for sure, I was not going to be free. I was going to be struggling to have a driver's license, struggling to have a job, struggling to, get food on my plate, things like this. If
Wow.
I did not do something different. And so I had to radically invest in myself and be the demonstration so that I can inspire others to do the same.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really big. And did you know we have two souls, one on the bottom of each feet? Did you know that?
I feel like I might have heard that before, but I don't know. That's
Yeah.
funny. I like that.
Yeah, it's true.
Say more about that. Two souls. We have one on each feet.
Yeah, I'm still reading. It's in the book Death by Sadhguru.
Mm,
We have two souls. People mention soul. I never knew that
yeah.
until he said it.
Yeah. So we have two souls, one on each foot. But what more does he say about
I
how
still
that
have to
relates to the
read. I
actual
didn't
soul?
read. I didn't read further.
Okay, yeah, yeah. That's interesting. We do have the two souls, so maybe we have three souls, right? We have the two souls on the bottoms of our feet, but we also have the soul, that inner greatness,
Oh
that greatness
no, we're talking
within.
about soul. SOUL.
SOUL.
Yeah, SOUL. Oh, you thought I was saying soul of the feet?
You said you have two souls, one on each foot, one on the bottom of each
Yeah, I
foot.
wasn't making a joke. Like literally, your soul, SOUL. There's two souls, one on the bottom of each foot. That's where they reside. You learn in that book, Death by Sadhguru.
Okay, I'll have to read that.
I
I'll have to read
know,
that.
but you thought I was making a joke with soul, SOLE, right?
Yeah, I think like a
The true
play on
soul,
words.
right?
A play
Yeah,
on
no.
words.
Like the soul that they say is like, in us, like that where it lives is the bottom of our foot. Like that's where the soul is, the location of the soul. That's what he said, yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Because no one knew where the soul is, right? In our body. Like there's
Yeah.
different parts of our body where things are. There's something here, I forget what it is, but like the spirit or like where things are in parts of our body, like that's where the soul is.
Yeah, that's an interesting discussion on the locality that could take us into
I
many
know.
directions. But I could see the play on words, and I could see
Mhm.
the play on the shadow. So you have your shadow that sticks out when the sun
Yeah.
goes, and it seems to meet at the
Mhm.
feet. And so that being
Mhm.
a representation of soul, and then
Mhm.
you sort of have the light soul, the dark soul, something like
Mhm.
that. I could see. I could see
Yeah,
some discussion around that. That'd be interesting. Sadhguru, he's an interesting character.
I like him a lot.
Yeah.
Ramon, the book is called Death. It's and he's so sarcastic. I love him because he says, "Death, a book for all those who shall die."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's really cool. Really interesting character. He says some interesting things for sure.
Do you agree with them?
Not all of them. I'm a challenging case. Like
Mhm.
I am not an easy person to like to
Mhm.
uh
Influence.
to convince or something like that.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I'm interested in a lot of spiritual things, a lot of
Mhm.
non-duality. This is very aligned. So transpersonal is to transcend the ego, the personal, transform
Mm.
or transcend
Mhm.
the personal, the egoic experience. So transpersonal psychology is like psychology, the study of the soul
Mhm.
transforming the ego. So that's maybe the etymology of those words. So
Mhm.
I'm interested in this subject matter, but I take it in a lot of variety of directions
Mhm.
and kind of I've very much leaned into my narrative as Mr. Gray. So that color is sort of a non-dual thing. It's a black and white that is culminated. Maybe the two souls that are culminated, but
yeah,
he's interesting. I just when I hear, do you like other spiritual teachers like Deepak Chopra?
I have not looked into his stuff. My dad actually knew Deepak Chopra in India.
Okay.
I've not looked into his stuff yet.
He's interesting. He once got he got like an honorary degree at my university, and I'm not sure how much he earned that really. I'm very much, and I think a lot of people should be. I'm very much willing to argue and kind of like dialogue, maybe.
The thing is, from my dad's, not like, because my dad in India, there were a lot of people that my dad knew, right? And I know he stated that he just people take others' informations and just reword it to their own and things of that nature, and that's really what went down, you know what I mean? And that's what happens. That's how a lot of people become successful. They take, like, even for Bob Proctor, right? He took Napoleon Hill's information and what is it, Earl Nightingale, and made it their own, like with their own twist. And that's what a lot of the stuff is. And same thing with like religion, right? The Bible and what is it? The Bible and Hinduism, like certain things, like all the same, but just in different, it's just a different religion, but they're all saying the same thing. Some people may disagree, but that's from what I learned when I was going to like a Bible study, just to see like how I feel, where I am like in my life, and then looking something up in Hindi, and it's the same thing but different English and Hindi. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
the lineage of spirituality in India is always oftentimes these gurus. They will often like kind of pray to their teacher.
Yeah.
And that teacher would give thanks, gratitude for their teacher.
Yeah.
So they're illustrating the lineage of the information, how the information has been passed along.
Because oh, go ahead.
I think, what is your information? That's
well, Sadhguru, when he was, I think, 11, right? And he came across a yogi. Did you know? Like an older gentleman.
Are you talking about Deepak Chopra?
No, Sadhguru.
Sadhguru. Yeah.
So
what's his story?
When he was young, he came across an older gentleman who was a yogi. So I think they were like climbing down something or up something, and he did it faster than the kids could. Like he had adrenaline and all those things, and he wanted to teach him to, teach those skills, and that was his guru. But he also went into a state of meditation where something shifted, and since then he's been really like stoic. You know what I mean? Like people and things don't affect him because he had that transformation at such a young age through his own guru. But it happened to him. It's I think very rare when people go through that, like that paradigm shift, right, at a young age. So, but
there's really fascinating scientists in enlightenment and spirituality. One of the most prominent, prolific authors of our modern times, his name is Ken Wilber. He's a really prolific teacher of spiritual studies. Ken Wilber, he's fascinating, but he has some areas that I disagree with also.
That's the thing. You're supposed to,
I think it is really important to do so. And unfortunately, I think in the beginning, it colored my idea of him. And I don't think he's a bad guy. I think actually listening to him speak, I think he's a pretty good person. But he just has this way of speaking about spiritual development, like emotions are not important, or that they are holding you back or something. Your emotional experience, and that was like one area that a lot of my fellow scholars kind of disagree with also. But Ken Wilber would speak about a Jesus or a Buddha, or you could say a Sadhguru, and they would have like this common, like this growth period that we spoke about in everybody's story, this period of time in their growth. Well, for these guys, it's that meditative time. For Jesus, he went out into the desert. For Buddha, he went out into the forest. He left like a royal palace. Well, that during that time in meditation, that is what has sparked the change, the paradigm shift.
That's right.
Well, Ken Wilber said that all of these guys have reached they reached enlightenment the same way as somebody today could reach enlightenment, but the world and the universe is ever expanding. And so in that ever expansion of the universe, they still like a Sadhguru, or he has an experience of like driving a motorcycle, right? He drives his motorcycle everywhere. Well, Jesus never had that experience. Buddha never had that experience. So there is something to that in these, in the future of teachers. Maybe in another 10,000 years, we won't remember some spiritual traditions might drop off, but you'll see like another prominent teacher, another somebody, and they won't be any more enlightened than Jesus or Buddha or who's the Muhammad. They won't be any more enlightened than a person like that, but the world will be more expanded. So all that is interesting. There's another teacher, a scientist, prolific scientist right now. I would say he's the modern scientist of enlightenment right now. He's a peer of mine. He's an acquaintance. I have a relationship with him. His name is Dr. Jeffrey Martin, and he speaks about enlightenment as a non-symbolic experience. And I don't exactly agree with this, because I appreciate narrative and symbolism and all of these things. I think a guy like Sadhguru maybe aligns in some ways and maybe not in others, but in that symbolism, that idea of symbolism, but non-symbolic experience, this idea that you're going to live your life with no self-narrative, no narrative in the mind that is having to interpret your whole worldly experience. It's all very fascinating, and it can go on and on, but
yes, it can. I wanted to do you remember the two books you mentioned earlier? One was about like body language or language.
About language?
Yeah, there were two books you mentioned. I would have to replay and find out.
I read two books that I mentioned at the beginning of my journey, but I love books now. I didn't used to love books. I'm a bibliophile now. I love books. So I have a lot of book recommendations, but I mentioned The Mission of Art by Alex Gray.
Thanks.
Grey. That's a really good one. I mentioned Get Capone, The Rise and Fall of Al Capone. And there's other good books. If you haven't read Man's Search for Meaning by
James Allen.
No, James Allen.
Viktor Frankl. Victor, right?
Viktor Frankl, yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl is awesome. That's a really good one.
That's on my list too.
Changing.
Yeah, so many books.
The Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, it's like he's a psychiatrist, but it's his experience in concentration camps as a Jewish man. And it's fascinating.
I remember what he said that it didn't affect him. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, it affected him. It affects everybody, but he essentially said that your imagination is stronger. Stronger than any experience that you could be having. People are you could be sitting on the sharpest rock, like no comfort in the chair at all. And if you imagine it to be, you're sitting on a throne, it becomes a throne. If you imagine this, this mud, this like,
food.
Their food, they were like ladling, and they were hoping that the person would, the Nazi that was giving him the food would hope that they were going to get one green pea would be in the soup. They were just hoping, and if it happened, then the difference is like, oh, thank you so much. I have a pea. Maybe I'll survive one more day. But another person might celebrate. They might be like, yes, I got this green pea, and that could make a world of difference on. He said that there was a guy in the concentration camp that believed that they were maybe never going to get out of there, and I think he ran into an electric fence. So suicide. A few days later, the Americans freed their camp. So it's like, man,
just hold on.
Worst situations. In your darkest night, can you create, maybe in your mind's eye, the brightest light? So I think Viktor Frankl is really good at depicting that. That's a really good one. Those are just some books that come offhand.
It's like never give up.
Never give up, but also you create your experience in the mind.
Ramon, yes, I am. So I just re-edited the Hunger for the Hustle, the book collab, and now Lesa's gonna be in there.
Nice.
We found out. So that was something we started before any of the new members came. I think about like 7 months ago now, like 6 months ago. A few people have started that, and
Hunger for the Hustle, you said.
Yeah, Hunger for the Hustle. So it's I think it's 33 people in our from Powervoice and TIR, like 33 of us like combined who are sharing our story like briefly.
Yeah.
So
like an anthology of your stories.
Yeah, like I'm not getting
3 chapters.
Yeah, like really like the hustle aspect more than getting deep into mine, because the first edit that I wrote was very deep, and it's like it needs like 25,000 more words because it was about my abortion and my twins and homelessness last year, and it's very deep. It's like it keeps you stuck in that emotionally, and they were like rewrite it. It's so heavy.
Writing a book is a worthy challenge for anybody. Writing your story, narrative, really lean into your narrative. The more you lean into your story, or have somebody to help you lean into that story in different ways, know thyself, that sort of wisdom, it's gonna translate into every area of your life. I'm writing my dissertation right now. The dissertation is essentially a book. It's like a 300-page research book. So it's not really the best received by the greater public, but usually that gets rewritten if one to want to publish their dissertation. It gets rewritten in sort of a more mainstream language.
Can Ramon read that?
Yeah.
I am writing my other book, not at this time. I'm going to restart it. It's Resiliency, a Woman's Journey from Scarcity to Success, but I'm going to be rewriting it. I had started it, while doing everything else. It's like, no, like I need to take just time for just writing a book,
One great piece of wisdom that I got from a writing teacher, the best writing happens in revision. The best writing happens when you go back to it and fix these little ideas.
I know. It was just like plop, like bunch of stuff, like whatever came to mind. It's not, So.
For a lot of people, a lot of authors that have spoke about their experience, that's an important part of the writing process.
You gotta dump it out.
Dump it, and then get that dump out of the way so that you can let the real stuff flow.
That's too funny, and that stinks.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was really awesome having you on today. Do you want to leave
Thank you so much.
with any of your wisdom? More wisdom.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Do you want to leave the viewers of more of your wisdom?
Allow everything you are to manifest and bless this earth.
Wow, that was really good.
I like that line. So I am Mr. Travis Gray. Please follow me on social media at Mr. Trav G. It's all one word, no underscores or anything like that. Ask at Mr. Trav G. I'm working on my dissertation right now, but I plan to have a lot of offerings coming out soon. So thank you so much. I really did appreciate your time. I appreciated that. This conversation was really great. Thank you.
The two souls.
The two souls. The two souls.
Cheers. I didn't even drink it. It's cold now. Thank you so much, and see you all on Monday.